Start the meeting of the County Board of Commissioners on this day, August 29. We have a quorum, barely. So we can continue. First, let me introduce the people who are here today. On my left is Jennifer Brinkman, and I hope soon to join us is Deb Shore. Roma Amison is on my right. I am Bill Avery, Vice Chair of this committee, sitting in for our chair who happens to be on his honeymoon somewhere. I don't think he ever explained where that would be. We also have with us from the County Attorney's Office, David Durbin, over here. Also from the Clerk's Office, Dan Nolte, the County Clerk, and Kelly Lundgren. Carrie Egan, over here on the very right, is the County Administrator, and with him, sitting in the front row, is Ann Ames, the Deputy County Administrator. And Dennis Meyer, who is the Budget Officer. You'll hear from him a bit more in a few minutes. All right, let's start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready, Mr. Clerk?
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available from the county clerk staff at the front of the hearing room. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Agenda item 1 are minutes. Approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the August 22nd meeting. Any discussion, corrections, comments? Call the roll.
Avery,
Yes?
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 2 are claims. Approval of all claims processed through August 29th, 2017.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the claims through August 29. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 3 is a special presentation. This is Lancaster County Visitors Improvement Fund grant in the amount of $1,795,000 to the City of Lincoln for improvement of Pinewood Bowl and Pioneer Park. J.J. Yost, Planning and Construction Manager, Lincoln Parks and Recreation.
Good morning, Commissioners. J.J. Yost, Planning and Construction Manager for Lincoln Parks and Recreation. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning and to talk about Pinewood Bowl. In 2015, we developed a master plan for improvements to Pinewood Bowl. This was done in conjunction with the City of Lincoln staff, Parks and Recreation staff, SMG, Pinnacle Bank Arena staff, and members of the Pinewood Bowl, Inc. Performing Group. The master plan recognizes that Pinewood Bowl is in fact a very unique and historic outdoor concert and performance venue, very well situated adjacent to the city here in the county, and is a real draw for area events. Some of the primary elements that were identified that came out of this master planning effort were to enhance the experience for visitors, improve and upgrade the back of stage or back of house facilities to make it more functional for touring acts, the increase in the number of touring acts now using this facility, and also to better serve the local community and theater productions. SMG Pinnacle Bank Arena began offering outdoor concerts and performances at Pinewood Bowl back in 2012. That first year, I believe there were 5 concerts offered at the bowl. This last year, 2016, there were 10, and I believe this year we're going to reach 12. So the popularity of those concerts, the attendance of those concerts just continues to go up. The venue has proven to be a very popular with patrons, Touring production groups like it as well. We get some great feedback from them, but we also get some reports that these improvements, these renovation efforts, these things are needed in order to continue to facilitate these kind of functions. Lincoln's well placed between Chicago, Denver, and Kansas City to draw upon these acts, and we also are starting to bring in more and more visitors from the surrounding areas, kind of between those major hubs. We believe the investment in the infrastructure of Pinewood Bowl will foster continuing success and help us provide entertainment in a unique setting that is a real opportunity to expand upon Lincoln and attract visitors to the area. We very much appreciate the opportunity to partner with the county. The funding support from the County Visitors Improvement Fund allows us to move ahead with some very timely, some very needed repairs, some replacements, renovations, and some enhancements, again, that will help take this venue kind of up to the next level and continue what we think is the start of a very successful operation in concerts. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Can you give us an idea of the kind of groups you have lined up to take advantage of this very lovely and expensive renovation?
You know, in all honesty, I can't very well. Tom Lorenz from SMG would have to answer the question of kind of what he's got in the works for the year ahead, and I'm not sure that that's even information he's able to release yet. But certainly, we're observing more and more big name concerts that are making stops here. Certainly, the last 2 years, he's brought in some acts that have really filled up the bowl to capacity on multiple occasions.
Deb?
This might be a Tom question as well. The Visitor Improvement Fund are not property tax dollars, but dollars that come from lodging tax from the 2% on each hotel room night stay. Are you able to track the number of out-of-town visitors that are coming into these types of events?
You know, that really is a Tom question, but what I do know, if Tom were here, one thing he would say that I've heard him say is that through their ticket sales, they're able to that's information they're able to gather where these tickets are being sold from, and then we do some license plate monitoring in the parking that happens out there. So I can't give you specifics, but I know that is being tracked or can be tracked, and that Tom is seeing a real increase in the number of out-of-town visitors coming to the facility.
Thank you.
It seems to me that I remember Tom saying to us at one point that the facility is becoming very popular with some top name performers. The facilities are not.
I think that's
And
exactly
for dressing
right.
rooms for stars.
Yeah, well, yeah. If I had photos of the dressing rooms to show you, they're very embarrassing, really, at this point. They're in terrible shape. So what you said is exactly what we're hearing. The acts really like the experience. They like the overall setting, and they're very interested in coming back. But they're telling us you've got to upgrade, you've got to make improvements backstage and in the amenities that facilitate essentially the infrastructure. Or it just doesn't work for us. It's very difficult to make it work. So we are getting that feedback that we'd love to come back, but you gotta do some things to get us back.
One more thing, you need to sign in before you leave.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Next is number 4, public hearings. First hearing is for Keno Fund projects.
We will now enter a public hearing on two items that will be taken up separately. The public hearing, of course, is for the purpose of gathering public input into our policies and decision-making. We'll start with the Keno Fund projects and follow with the proposed budget for fiscal year 17-18. And Dennis, help us out.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, good morning. Dennis Meyer, County Budget and Fiscal Officer. Today, we're going to be talking about two different things. We're going to start with the Keno Fund, and with the Keno Fund, we do this on an annual basis where we hold the hearing before we actually hold the budget hearing. And the reason for this is years ago, when the county got involved in the Keno funds, when the resolution was drawn up, that was kind of put in there that, you know, a public hearing will be held each year for the purpose of receiving input regarding any project that the county fund, the Keno funds might be used for. So we really will take no action on the Keno fund because it rolls into the actual county budget itself. So when we adopt the budget, that's where the action is actually taking place. So with the Keno fund, this year, the projects that are really set up is, the main focus with the Keno fund this year is the East Beltway. We will be moving $1 million of the revenue that we have received into the East Beltway to give us a total of a little over $1.6 million. So with that move, we have always the last few years transferred money to the general fund as property tax relief. That property tax relief will not happen this year going to the general fund because we've made the decision that we need to start pushing a little bit more funding for the East Beltway side of things. The other three things that are taking place is we always set aside 5% of the revenue for prevention grants. Not only does the county do that, the city also does that on their side, and then there's a pool of money that is used for grants from that purpose. Video conferencing, we've got a little over $30,000 still sitting there. A couple years ago, we had put some money aside for that. We're real close on that video conferencing to be final. There's a couple things that are hanging out there, so I don't believe the whole $30,000 will be used, but I'm waiting to clean that up. So once we clean that up this year, then the remaining amount will roll back into the pool, and then next year we can make a decision on what we want to use that for. And then the last one is for the website. We have set $3,500 aside for that to start that process. Now, the one thing with the Keno money is when you take a look, I always show a fund balance and then estimated receipts. And when you take a look at that, we don't really budget the money that we plan to receive this year. The way it's set up is, with the resolution, is we only set up after we receive the money. So we're really just working with the fund balance. So the fund balance is at $1.8 million. We've got a little over $1.7 million that we've got set up for projects. So right now, there would be about $67,000 that's not allocated to any project at this point in time. The remaining amount, my projections for the estimated receipts, we'll just collect it this year, and then the hearing next year will take place with what we've received. So we're never spending anything until we've received it.
Any questions for Dennis? Comments? Might as well stay there. Anybody here wish to speak in behalf of the Keno Fund projects? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? A neutral capacity? Okay, we'll move to the next item.
Next is Lancaster County's proposed budget for fiscal year 2017-2018.
All right, budget hearing. Today, I want to go over a few items dealing with the current year budget numbers, kind of, what we've kind of been working with this year, and where we're trying to get to. So the information that I will go over is information that is out on my web page. We always put the proposed budget that is required to be filed by July 31st out there. I put together kind of a summary. That summary is also out there. Once we finalize and adopt the adopted budget will also be out there. So those three items are all out there. And then we'll talk about at the end just a little bit about service-based budget. So we will have a new document out there this year that will really kind of focus on the service-based budget. So let's kind of talk proposed budget that was filed by July 31st. When we completed that budget, the property tax rate was set up at 26.63 cents, along with a projection of an 8% valuation increase. So that's what was filed by July 31st. On August 10th, when we talked about publication for today's hearing, what did we want to include in there? And at that time, the board took action to include a tax request that would support a 26.83 cent levy, along, again, still with the 8% because we didn't know what the actual valuation was. So with that move from the 26.63 up to the 0.83, that brought in, or would bring in, an additional $509,000. And on that day, it was determined that we would put that into the contingency fund and then make any decisions from there would come out of the contingency fund. So, Kelly, if you could. The first slide that I've got up here just kind of shows the property tax rate over the last 10 years. And this will kind of show you that back in 08, 09, for those first few years, we were at 26.83. The year that it jumped to the 28.43 is the year that we decided to utilize the 1.6 cents from the RTSD's levy. So from there, you will see that it's gradually decreased as we've been trying to give that portion back to the RTSD. So on here, I am showing for the proposed levy the 26.83, which would then show that we have really released the portion of the RTSD levy from our utilization. So for budgets moving forward from here, that will no longer be part of the discussion, which hopefully just kind of clears things up as we kind of go through there. So RTSD is over after this budget is adopted. So since that publication, valuation came in at 8.7%, which again is 0.7% higher than what I was projecting. And so there has been discussions over the last couple weeks, what do we want to do with that? If we leave the levy at the 26.83, that would generate an additional $438,576. If we decide to not use that and just use the current valuation, calculate the levy that way, the levy would come in at 26.66 cents. So that's the discussion that we've been having, and that will be what will be determined as we go through and adopt the budget. Now, the budget will not be adopted today. We will hold a special board meeting on September 7th, and the adoption of the budget will take place at that point in time. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The next slide that I kind of want to show you is this one. Just kind of shows the percentage increase in valuation versus the percentage increase in property tax over the years. To me, this is kind of an interesting one because what it will show you is where valuation came in at versus what percentage did we take for property tax. So you will see the big hike in the property tax is the year that we utilize the RTSD's levy portion. So from there, you will then see, looking at valuations over the last few years, valuation came in, property tax came in at a smaller rate as we were trying to back off of the RTSD levy. So that kind of just shows you valuation versus what was taken property tax-wise. On the property tax side here, last slide on just tax rates and stuff. This is the current year's tax rate for a City of Lincoln resident, and all this really shows you is that Lancaster County's portion of the overall levy is at a 13.52%. So that's just kind of showing you which portion of the overall rate that we utilize.
Dennis, I couldn't see all of that because the distance, but how does that compare?
So for this current year, Lancaster's at 13.52%. City of Lincoln is at 16.38. LPS is at 60.87, and then all the other subdivisions are at 9.24.
Okay, thank you. And over time, that hasn't changed very much?
It's, I mean, it's pretty close. It fluctuates a little bit, but not a whole lot. I mean, over the, at least over the last, I would say, when the levies got finalized, so that this, the levy limits for the schools were at $1.05, and those have been out there for a while. It's pretty consistent. City of Lincoln and Lancaster County might move a little bit, but not a whole lot. Okay, next slide I've got up there is just projected revenues for this current budget year on just our property tax funds. And our property tax funds is our general fund and our building fund. That's where we put property tax into. And one of the things that this kind of shows you is, one of the items that we always point out is that, the county does not receive any sales or income tax. And so we really rely on property tax at a pretty high level. So when you take a look at this, you will see that property tax is at almost 55% of our revenues coming in. When you take into effect our property tax, our other tax, which is motor vehicle tax and inheritance tax, and then our fund balance, with those three, we get to about 78% real quick. So that just kind of shows you how much reliance that the county kind of lives off of some of those tax dollars. The thing with our inheritance tax that I also like to point out is that, Lancaster County utilizes inheritance tax by putting it into the general fund. So it is utilized on an annual basis to really offset any type of expenses right in our general fund. This last fiscal year, we received $5.7 million. So without that $5.7 million, we would have had an additional 2.4 cents on the property tax levy because, as you can see, we rely and we're pushed back to the property tax so much. So, so I just kind of want to throw that out also. Let's talk some budget numbers now. Total budget of expenditures for 2017-2018 right now is set at $184.7 million. That includes, all 2025 funds that we have within the county budget. That is an actual decrease from last year's budget. It's about a little over 3% decrease. A couple things happened last year that are really kind of out of the ordinary, which is then driving our budget down a little bit. Last year, we had an LES project done by our county engineer's office where we budgeted for $4 million coming in, as well as doing that $4 million project. We also then, during the fiscal year, we sold the Community Health Center building. So we had an additional $3.185 million coming in, and we also had that $3.185 million going out because we moved it back to the PBC to help offset costs of the new crisis center so that we didn't have to issue as many bonds for that purpose. So with having those couple things happening, it really then shows that our total budget is decreasing this year. Total amount of property tax for the proposed budget is at about $67.8 million. And as you've seen on the slide earlier, that's at about a 5.5% increase. On the expenditure side, when we talk about that, I like to kind of break out to show you where, what type of expenditures are we using those for. You will see public safety, law enforcement is the highest percentage, and then we get into public works, dealing with highways and roads, and then we got public safety other, which is really dealing with mostly the court side of things, is where that kind of gets into. So that is the breakdown on the disbursements by function. When we talk general fund budget, we're talking the overall budget's about 187 or 184.7. General fund budget is at a little over 114 million. And this is just a breakdown of the different departments and business units that we have within there. The total budget of expenditures for the general fund is going to increase by about 2.7, which results in about a 2.43% increase over last year's. Now, property tax for the general fund is going to increase by about 3.3 million. Few things that's driving that. As I talked earlier, Keno money, we are going to have no Keno money going into our general fund this year, which last year we had about $550,000. And then we've also got, a revenue decrease out at our youth services center for the expected revenue coming into there. So those types of items are forcing our revenues down a little bit. On the expenditure side, we have made the determination to move an additional $1 million out there to the county engineer's office for road and bridge issues. So we're moving $1 million there. We're going to also be needing to increase our transfer to the crisis center by an additional $200,000. And that's kind of a timing issue right now because of the Medicaid reimbursement world. Right now, there's a little bit of a struggle on timing of when we are getting reimbursed for Medicaid. So right now, to keep cash flow going over at our crisis center, we need to transfer an additional $200,000. Payroll costs in our general fund is always a big player in the game. Payroll costs will be increasing by $2.3 million, and that's really due to cost of living and health insurance raises. For the most part, for our current year budget, the health insurance cost that we're working with is at about a 4% increase. Largest budget in our general fund is our corrections budget. That thing is going to increase by about $1.1 million. And that is really due to a few things. The hiring of 5 additional correctional officers, increase in the food contract because of the number of inmates. And then, of course, like I mentioned, health insurance, cost of living. They're our largest number out there. So, almost on any given year anymore, with the size of that budget, we're at about $23 million for expenditures. We're going to be looking at almost $1 million probably on an annual basis anyway, just due to the number of employees and stuff that we have out there. So that's about as normal as we're going to be out there at the corrections department at this point in time. County Board also approved an additional $200,000 in JBC funding this year, based on the number of requests we're getting there. And then the last item I want to talk about in the general fund is our legal services. Legal services is one of those numbers that, that we're always trying to get a grip on. I mean, basically, cost over in the county court and the district court have increased. County court by $193,000, in the district court by $235,000, really due to caseloads and conflicts in our public defender's office. So those costs are really for indigent individuals that we are paying to have them represented. County Board also added a felony attorney over in the public defender's office this year to hopefully kind of help in this process. We're also in the process of having discussions with legal aid. We had just received a letter from legal aid talking about their costs versus what it's actually costing them and what we're paying them. And in all reality, through that process, we could be talking another $224,000 there. So right now, legal services are those numbers are kind of high on our radar list. We'll be looking at them watching them, looking at them at mid-year, looking to see how some of the changes we're trying to make, how that kind of maybe helps in the process. So again, that's kind of the ones that are taking place in our general fund. In some of our other funds that we're dealing with, we've talked Keno, we've talked Bridge and Highway, where we're moving an additional $1 million out there. In our building fund, we are in the process of building our new emergency operations center. So that is kind of the big project for this year, moving that out to our youth services center. The plan is to use some of the money from the sale of Traybert to help cover those costs. It's always about timing, so it really comes down to when can we sell Traybert versus when do we start making payments on the Emergency Operations Center. And with that in mind, right now, the way the budget is set up is we've got $1 million transfer from the general fund to the building fund to help cover those costs, because at this point in time, there will be costs that will be associated with it, I believe, before the sale of Traybert actually happens. Once Traybert is sold, then we'll replenish the general fund, put the other money into the building fund, and everything will kind of work out there. But so it's all kind of due to timing at that point in time. Last thing that I'll just mention is the service-based budget. This year, the board made the decision to try something a little bit different. And that little bit different is what we're calling service-based budgeting. And, every time we do something new, a little bit of change, it takes a little bit to kind of get through that process. So what service-based budgeting really is that we had each department describe their services that they provide, but this year we're having a number attached to those so that you will be able to go out, take a look at this document by department, by fund, and see the different types of services that are being provided, and it will also have a dollar amount attached to it. So for example, County Budget and Fiscal Office, you will be able to see let's just say the 10 different services that I feel that we provide. And let's just say, for example, one of them is, the doing the whole budget thing. This year, you will see that with a dollar amount attached to it so that you as the county board or you as a taxpayer can take a look at to see how much is it costing us to provide that service. So I think that is no doubt a good thing. And like I mentioned earlier, that will be a document that will go out onto my webpage so that anybody can pull that up. And when we move into the next year's budget, we'll probably be tweaking it. We'll be trying to figure out what's the next step from there. But we kind of figured out that this was the best first step, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, so that information will also be out there. Other than that, if you happen to have any questions, I can answer those.
I would like to make a comment. The service-based budget process grew out of a discussion on the board about the apparent automatic increase that was in our previous way of doing business. Most governments do this, wherein you take this year's budget plus some increment to determine next year's budget. What we were trying to do was to separate ourselves from what appeared to be automatic increases every year. I believe the name for that was zero-based budgeting, where each department starts with zero and builds up with essential expenditures, and they justify desirable expenditures. And we did fairly well, I would say, wouldn't you, Dennis?
Yeah.
But we're perfecting.
We are trying to get to that next level.
Yes, we hope we can do even more with it. But I thought that background might
Yeah.
be useful. You have anything more? Questions for Dennis? Stick around.
Okay.
Now we'll hear testimony on this item, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Anyone here to voice support for any of that budget that was discussed in the presentation? Okay, no support. I see Kobe Mack back there. Any opposition?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kobe Mack.
Can I
Here
go ahead
from-
and swear you in?
Swear me in, yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Kobe Mack, appearing on behalf of the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Good morning. Thank you for your service to our community. I was here well over a month ago, and we weighed in on the budget. So I'm not going to reiterate all of that. Just a couple of things, though. One is that when we were here back in July, mid-July, we thank this board for considering more road and bridge money. I think this is going to be the third or fourth year that you've increased that budget. And again, we just want to reiterate a thank you to that. Also, I want to take just a second this morning to thank Dennis Meyer for quickly responding to our questions that we had at LIBA. And then finally, I did want to share again the final paragraph that we presented to you last month, and that is that the windfall is not coming from commercial property. This extra money or windfall is not coming from office property. It's not coming from retail or manufacturing. This extra money, the windfall, is coming from homeowners, and as a community, we need to stand up for families and their ability to afford a home. Certainly, the commissioners and any other elected body can find hundreds of ways to spend the additional money, but we urge you to return it to the homeowners. Last week, the Lincoln Vital Signs report was released. Last week, that report said nearly half of Lincoln Public School students are on free or reduced lunch. Their families just don't have the extra money. So, thank you. Again, thank you for serving our community. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you've got.
I expected it to be worse.
Commissioner, thank you. Have a good day.
Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to this item?
I am Ed
Do-
Watts.
Oh, I'll go ahead and swear you in here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I just come to speak about roads and bridges a little bit, and to echo what Kobe just,
Could we get your name for the record?
Edward Watts, I wrote it down already.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
All right, I just want to speak in support of roads and bridges. I've been to the 1 in 6 meetings a couple of times. Lincoln's growing, we're seeing more growth to the east, and I guess I would just continue to encourage the commissioners to fund road and bridge projects. I believe in the district in northeast Lancaster County, we still have several bridges and roads that remain closed from last year's flood. There's still one on Alvo Road, 3 miles north of me, that hasn't been open, and I don't think it's on the schedule to be repaired. Infrastructure is important for growth, and I would encourage the commissioners continue to be proactive instead of reactive to the needs for roads and bridges. The road that I've been in and talked about the last couple of years, there's a new business. Bethany Animal Clinic is moving into 112th Street. I had Benish, I can leave this. I had Benish do a traffic count and a study on proposed average daily counts. When it opens, they're estimating off of their ITE generation manual that when that opens, traffic counts on that road should go above 650 to 700. And by the time you put it in the planning stage and get it done, you're probably talking a few years down the road. So I would encourage the board to be proactive, try to fund our infrastructure projects in the county.
Thank you. You might want to know that this board has set up a task force on transportation issues.
I've seen that on the website.
Yeah, and we're hopeful that they'll come up with brilliant ideas on how we can get ourselves out of this difficulty.
Good job. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Anyone wish to speak in a neutral capacity?
Do you solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Silas Clark, City Hickman of Hickman, City Administrator of Hickman. How about that? So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us. You know, City Hickman has had a great relationship with the county, and we appreciate that, and also our TSD. I'm here to echo some of the other comments here on the importance of roads and bridges in our area, but mostly on the road side. If I could bring this up, and I'll just be brief. I know we are on a public hearing for the entire budget, but just wanted to show kind of the importance in our area also. So you can hopefully see some of my chicken scratches here. But our biggest need in town, especially with the South Beltway coming in on Saltillo there, is another access into Hickman. If 68th Street, South 68th Street is really closed for up to 2 years, and 82nd Street also closed for a year or slightly longer, then our only way into town and down to the school is via 54th Street. That 54th Street section is not paved in between Roca Road and Hickman Road. So I just want to stress that that is one extreme priority there for us. Also, we thank you very much for resurfacing 68th Street from Roca Road south to our border. What's funny is even on Facebook, you know, people talk all the time, and people said, I wish the road was closed longer. You can see it for yourself. I was surprised. It was 4 shoulders and another lane to go in the middle. Commissioner Shore and the county engineer and I have had good conversations starting out as the city, realizing it's our responsibility for widening 68th Street through town, definitely want to partner on that project with the county and the county engineer's office on that, just to try to save some taxpayers' funding there and make sure that it's a cohesive project. Just also quickly, so 68th Street, we just did another traffic study on it. I've got 7,300 cars a day now going on 68th Street in my borders. 7,100 south of town. That is a 35% increase since November of 2014, and that traffic study was done in March of 2017. Up in our northwest corner of town, I've got another 80 homes going in right now. I have a preliminary plat that was just approved, bumping up to 82nd Street, north of Hickman Road, that has over 200 homes coming in. So we continue to be the fastest growing community in Nebraska. With that, we have a great need. So I just stress the importance also of these road projects in particular, and road projects in southern Lancaster County. And I have put in the mayor and I application for the task force. So just so you're aware. So we thank you for that also. And do have two representatives, this assistant superintendent in the transportation district from Norris Public Schools today with me too.
Let me go back to, you said that Hickman is the fastest growing community in the state or in the county?
In the state.
It nosed out La Vista?
And Gretna. Yep, 3 years in a row.
It's not that Silas is proud of that fact, though. Can you
No,
tell?
yeah, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of sewer and water issues we can talk about, but roads also. But yes, absolutely. It comes with its transportation growing pains for sure. So, thank you.
We'd like to hear from your coworker. If you have something to say, sir, please do.
Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. My name's Brian Moshman. I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Norris School District. And a while ago, Norris was a small school in the middle of a cornfield, and we're not anymore. We gain about 50 to 100 kids a year, and right now we have 4 buildings on our campus. We have a elementary, pre-K 2, intermediate 3 through 5, middle school 5 through 6, and then high school 9-12. And so right now we're at about 2,400 kids, and the majority of those kids come from our northern part of the district, so South Lincoln, north by Hickman. And Galen DeVries, our transportation director, he'll be coming up and talking about our transportation, where we are currently at about 26 bus routes, and I'm guessing 1,500 kids, but he can talk about that. I'm talking more about our staff has increased to about 300 staff members for the district, including the teachers, custodians, cooks, paras, and the majority of them are coming from the north of our district. And with the South Beltway coming in, it's amazing that we talked about 2020, and it seems so far away, but it's not anymore. It's coming close, and we're just wanting you to think more about the paving of the streets, and if 68 is going to be closed for a time, we would like to look at maybe 54th or 82nd Street being paved to help our transportation for the safety of our employees and the students.
May I ask you, do you know how many students are free and reduced lunch?
For the Norris District, we have about 15%. So we're well below the state average.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is anti-testimony, correct?
No, I'm the transportation director at Norris.
Neutral.
Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name's Galen DeVries. I'm the transportation director at Norris, so I'm in charge of all the buses that go all over the district. We have over 14 that will go north of Hickman. We have sped buses and the big buses, so we have a lot of buses that are going to be moving onto an area, and the gravel road is. We do travel a lot of gravel roads, but when you try to put a lot of buses and a lot of people on the same gravel road, that's where the problems are going to intensify greatly as far as dust, bad road conditions, and just traffic in general. So that's why I'm looking at hoping that 82nd maybe from Saltillo to Roca Road, and especially 54th coming into Hickman onto Hickman Road would be paved to. Safety is all that I'm concerned about at Norris, because that's my job. So.
I stand corrected. This is neutral testimony. We're at. Any neutral questions?
Do you have any idea how many cars arrive every day at your facility? You mentioned that 300 employees, but you probably have a significant number of teenage drivers as well that come in. And sorry,
I can't tell you for sure.
a question just popped in my mind because we're talking about number of buses and number of staff, but
I can help.
The thing about the students coming from the north would be over 600 on the buses alone.
Okay.
And then I can't answer how many students drive, because it's a bunch.
As you know, the majority of kids that ride the bus are kindergarten through 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. You get into high school, you have more kids that are driving. We have 700 kids, almost 700 kids in high school that either ride with their brothers, sisters, or by themselves. So there's a high number that in the high school that do drive.
thank you.
And how many, and I just was thinking, how many sports events, band events, and so forth like that do you have where the teenagers drive in during the evening hours too, or have late practices and things like that? Is that similar?
Yes. This last, I want to say this last Friday night when we had Gretna come down to a football game, I want to say we had over 4,500 people show up to the game. And that's just on a Friday night. Galen, last year, we had over 700.
We had 512 activities with a big trip alone.
Yeah.
And so
That
that,
left north.
So basically, what you're talking about is not necessarily just kids going to school, but it's also the kids going to their events, the parents going to their events, the grandpas and the grandmas going to the events and everything like that too.
Yeah.
So those roads are very, very heavily traveled.
exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're on neutral testimony. Seeing none, I close the hearing on Keno funds and the fiscal year budget 2017 and 18, and now we will go to the next item on the agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Next is number 5, new business. 5A is the Lancaster County Visitors Improvement Fund Grant in the amount of $1,795,000 to the City of Lincoln for improvement of Pinewood Bowl. The grant will be paid in 4 phases, commencing June 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution recognizing National Preparedness Month. Anyone here? No.
We're
What?
on A.
We're on A.
A.
Oh, you're on E. All right, I'm sorry.
Jump to D.
I did. I jumped because I was anticipating. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Visitors Improvement Fund Grant, correct? Any discussion of that? Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. B is a resolution in the matter of exceeding the budget of restricted funds limit for the 2016-2017 fiscal year by an additional 1%.
All right, this resolution is kind of part of the budget packet, but not the adoption of the budget. This 1% deals with the lid on restricted funds. Statute says the lid can grow by 2.5% plus any growth, and then plus an additional 1% if voted on by a supermajority vote of the county board. So growth is only if you have over 2.5%, and we do not quite hit that. So what this resolution is doing is just taking on the additional 1%. And like I've said over the years, we've got a base amount that was set back in 1998, and with the lid, you know, we talk property tax all the time. You will set the property tax in the adoption of the budget. It's not going to really affect our lid because we don't have a lid problem at this point in time. But my concern is always years down the road, if we ever need to have our base amount up at a higher level and we don't take this step every year, that could cause us problems 10 years down the road, whenever. So my philosophy is, at this point in time, it only makes sense to take that additional 1%.
Deb?
A question. The agenda item reads the 2016-27 fiscal year. So you're calculating it on last year's? Okay.
Yes. And then once we finalize the budget, we plug our current year numbers in and make sure that we're within that lid. But the base amount just rolls forward from the previous year.
Move approval?
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution in the matter of exceeding the budgeted restricted funds limit for 2016-17 by 1%. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5C is a resolution in the matter of the final allocation of levy authority to all political subdivisions subject to Lancaster County levy authority.
Okay, this is my last resolution for the day. And this one here deals with the allocation of the 15 cents. All the political subdivisions, such as the fire districts, the Ag Society, the RTSD, must make a request to the county board. We must take a look at that to see if it falls within the allowable 15-cent allocation. So we have looked at this, and we've compared it with their valuations, looked at their levy, and at this point in time, we do not have any issues with the 15-cent allocation. So this is just kind of setting up each of those districts with the tax request that they can utilize for their own budget process. So once this is adopted, I will then send it out to all of their representatives so that they can do their budget hearing, they can adopt their budget, and Lancaster County does not have any issue with the 15-cent allocation.
Move approval?
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution in the final allocation of levy authority to all the political subdivisions. Any discussion, questions, comments? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Dennis.
D is a resolution in a matter of recognizing September 2017 as National Preparedness Month.
Good morning. Jim David, Save Director, Lincoln, Lancaster County Emergency Management. I'd like to thank the board for considering the resolution before you to recognize September as National Preparedness Month. The logo there shows the catchphrase for this year's campaign, disasters don't plan ahead, you can. In emergency management, I'm always interested in preparedness, anything we can do to raise the awareness of all our citizens to increase preparedness. You don't have to look far in today's news, unfortunately. Thoughts and prayers go out to those who are dealing with the absolutely devastating effects of Hurricane Harvey. Closer to home, early last week, the city of Seward had a water main break, and its water service was not fit for human consumption for several days. So again, it's one of those things in my world, preparedness is always first and foremost, but we really focus on pushing that out in September. The campaign has weekly themes that it targets the information on, and you can see it's a process that it works its way through, starting with the initial individual plan. Make sure that you and yours, your immediate family, those in your household are adequately prepared, and then kind of expanding it from there to your neighborhood, to your community, and then once you have that plan in place, how often do you exercise it? So you may have some things in place that you have never tested before. You always want to make sure and do that. And then the last week, we will focus on what you can do essentially to pay it forward. And again, when we think about the Hurricane Harvey effect, even the Lincoln Community Blood Bank is highlighting the need for blood donations, just anything we can do to enhance the overall preparedness of that. There's also a saying that goes with planning. It's not so much the plan, but the planning process that leads to success. So again, when I think about the focus on just increasing everyone's awareness so they are as prepared as they can be, should put us in a good place moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions for David? Don't see any.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution in the matter recognizing September 2017 as National Preparedness Month. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5E is a special designated license application for Myers Wine, Inc. for reception at Prairie Creek Inn at 2400 South 148th Street in Walton on September 23rd, 2017.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the designation, or the special designated license application from Myers Wine for reception at Prairie Creek Inn. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. F is a request from Brian Glover for a refund of real property tax.
Hello, Rob Ogden, Chief Deputy County Assessor, Register of Deeds. We discovered that we had an error in measuring a property. We've corrected that. We need to give a refund for the 3 years, 14, 15, and 16, based on that difference. The difference in tax is approximately $150 plus difference each year that will be refunded. We agree with the request. Any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve this request from Mr. Glover. Any discussion? It's a good thing. Correct those errors. Makes everybody happy. Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. G is an amendment to County Contract C-16-446 subgrant agreement with the State of Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services for child support enforcement services provided by the Lancaster County Child Support Referee. The amendment extends agreement from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. The county shall be reimbursed an estimated amount of $290,757.07 for the services.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the county contract C-16-0446, a subcontract agreement with the state of Nebraska's Health and Human Services for child support enforcement. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. H is an agreement between the Nebraska Department of Motor Vehicles Fraud Investigation Unit and Lancaster County on behalf of the Lancaster County Sheriff for use of the county firearms range for training and qualification testing. Term of the agreement is for 5 years.
Good morning, Terry Wagner, Lancaster County Sheriff. We had one of these agreements with another agency last week or the week before. We have entered into agreements with a number of smaller agencies who don't have their own firearms range. They use our range for qualification and for practice. This is a small agency. It doesn't have many employees. It would probably be about twice a year. We don't charge them for the use of our range, and they supply their own equipment and ammunition.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this agreement between the Department of Motor Vehicles Fraud Investigation Unit and Lancaster County on behalf of the Lancaster County Sheriff. Any discussion, questions? Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. I has a recommendation from the purchasing department and county sheriff to use a purchase order to Herreras Corporation for a handheld X-ray imager for a total cost of $42,400.
Good morning, Terry Wagner, Lancaster County Sheriff. This is a device. It is what it says it is. It's a handheld X-ray device. And so when our interdiction unit has probable cause to search a vehicle, we can use this device to determine whether there are drugs hidden in hidden compartments in a vehicle, inside door panels, inside fender panels, those kinds of things. The same standard applies for a search with this as it would be a physical search of the vehicle. So the cost of this will be paid for with seized assets.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the recommendation from the Department of purchasing and the county sheriff to issue a purchase order for a handheld X-ray imager. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5J is an agreement with the State of Nebraska Department of Education for Nebraska VR to provide a vocational rehabilitation employment program to eligible persons with disability housed at the Lancaster County Youth Services Center. The term of the agreement is July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. There is no cost to the county.
Good morning, Michelle Schindler, Youth Services. This is an exciting relationship that we're developing with the State Department of Education Vocational Rehabilitation. Essentially, they approached us. The commissioner came out and his leadership team did a tour, and they approached us about introducing this program into our facility. There's no cost. What is happening, just to give you a better understanding, is federally, the focus of Voc Rehab is really moving now towards juveniles. It used to be towards adults, and it's moving now towards juveniles. And they have broadened eligibility criteria. So now youth with substance abuse or certain mental health diagnoses are also eligible. It used to be people thought of Voc Rehab as physical disabilities, but it has expanded. And so what we've just begun is they come on site and we coordinate with them to contact the families and the youth to see if they're interested in participating in a program where it's pre-work education, and they can even assist youth in completing the FAFSA for free federal funds to go to college, assisting them in developing what's called soft skills. Those are essentially employment skills, how to introduce yourself, how to be professional, things of that nature. I'm assisting them in looking for jobs, filling out applications. And then if the youth does decide to participate, it's all voluntary, this then goes into the school system. And there's follow-up. Voc Rehab is national, so even if we have youth move to other areas of the country, that information can be shared with those Voc Rehabilitation people in the community. So that's free. It's very exciting. It's something that every parent wants for their child, to be able to develop job skills and get a job and perhaps go on for future education. And I saw Mr. Mack here. I would love to develop a relationship where our local businesses come into our facility and talk with our youth about job skills. So I just see this expanding for our youth and being a great thing. So, and it's free to us.
It's good.
Roma.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is just an exciting program. I really think it is, and it is certainly a step in the right direction as far as getting kids into the workforce, helping them and everything. And so it's a great step in what we're doing. So really congratulate you on moving forward with this.
Thank you.
I would like to move approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agreement with the State of Nebraska's Education Department for, to provide a vocational rehabilitation employment program at the Lancaster County Youth Services Center. Any further discussion? Comments? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 4-0. K is a contract with Midwest Pump and Equipment Company to provide and install a vehicle hoist. The cost of the county is not to exceed $18,718, and work will be completed in 45 days upon notice to proceed.
Pam Ding, Lancaster County Engineer. So during last budget cycle, I came to you guys and we replaced the car and light truck hoists. This is the hoist that is the big hoist that we put the aging buses on, and the other, I'll call them smaller but heavy vehicles. When we replaced the other pumps, we determined that as the years have gone by, these vehicles have become heavier, and our existing pump our existing hoist really was dramatically undersized to be lifting these vehicles. So this is a replacement for the hoist that lifts the small buses.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contract with Midwest Pump and Equipment Company to provide and install a vehicle hoist for the county. Any more discussion, comments? Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5L are amendments to the following contracts for the annual supply of lubricants. The amendments renew the contracts from September 1st, 2017 through August 31st, 2018, and this includes County Contract C-15-464 with Sapp Brothers, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $50,000, and County Contract C-15-465 with TCA Outdoor Power in an amount not to exceed $1,000.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve amendments to two contracts for the annual supply of lubricants to the county. First contract is with Sapp Brothers, and in the amount of $50,000, and the second one is with TCA Outdoor Power in the amount of $1,000. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. M are amendments to the following contracts for the annual requirements of pumping, hauling, and disposal services for liquid waste products. The amendments extend the contracts from September 3rd, 2017 through November 2nd, 2017. And this includes County Contract C-13-448 with A First Rate Pumping Service, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $1,500, and County Contract C-13-449 with Tan Air, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $200.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve amendments to two contracts for annual requirements of pumping, hauling, and disposal services for liquid waste products. First contract is with A First Rate Pumping Service in the amount of $1,500. The second one is with Tan Air Incorporated in the amount of $200. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5N is an amendment to County Contract C-14-453 with Dr. Fuelgood for the annual service of fuel tank maintenance and service. The amendment renews the contract from September 1st, 2017 through August 31st, 2018. The cost of the county is not to exceed $25,000.
Pam Damon, Lancaster County Engineer. So this may be my favorite named contractor, but this gentleman goes around to all of our fuel tanks and tests all of the fuel within for any contaminants. A few years ago, we did have a problem with algae plume in our diesel, which was an extraordinarily expensive problem because it meant that the filters in the gas tanks of all those motor graders had to be changed. Of course, they're very expensive, as well as the filters within all the gas pumps. And so this is really preventative maintenance. It has served us well and saved us a lot of money.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve an amendment to county contract with Dr. Fuelgood for the annual services of fuel tank maintenance and service. Any discussion, comments? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5O is an amendment to County Contract C-15-426 with Pavers, Inc. for the annual supply of cold asphalt. The amendment renews the contract from September 17th, 2017 through September 16th, 2018. The cost of the county is not to exceed $2,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the county contract with Pavers, Inc. for the annual supply of cold mix asphalt. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. P is a recommendation from purchasing to rescind the award for RFP 17-199 cost per copy services based on the vendor requesting their proposal be withdrawn.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the recommendation from purchasing to rescind the award for a RPF 17-199 cost per copy services based on the vendor requesting their proposal be withdrawn. Any discussion on this? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Q is a recommendation from purchasing and a county engineer to award a contract to Westover Rock and Sand, Inc. for the supplying and hauling of sand and gravel for ice control. The total amount is $17,205.
Lancaster County Engineer Pam Dingman. So, a couple of weeks ago, we had the contract to purchase the material. This is the contract to haul the material. You may remember that we have 4 salt domes in Lancaster County. We kind of joke sometimes they're the thunder domes because they seem to attract storms. But this will get the materials actually to those 4 salt domes.
Move approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the recommendation from purchasing and the county engineer to award a contract to Westover Rock and Sand Incorporated be approved. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. R is an amendment to County Contract C-16-711 with Manili Wagner and Associates to include additional engineering services relating to bridge replacement project number C-55-C-91. Work is to be completed on or before October 23rd, 2017. The cost of county is $8,172.50.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. So this change order is really the result of plans that were completed for this bridge prior to my being county engineer. And when we go ahead and we do design and then we shelf it for a number of years, just like if you put a loaf of bread on your shelf for a number of years, they get stale, and we have to go back and redo them. In this case, the Army Corps of Engineers has changed some of their 404 permit requirements, and we're required to meet the criteria of a new alternative matrix for this bridge. And so this is the cost of creating that alternative matrix for the Army Corps of Engineers so that we can finish our permitting process.
Move approval?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we amend, we approve the proposed amendment to county contract with Manili, Wagner and Associates to include additional engineering services relating to bridge replacement, project number C-55-C-91.
And I do have a question. Do you know when the original plan was drawn up?
I don't have that with me today, but I know that we do have several plans that have been in our office for more than 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5S is utility permit number 1536, allowing the city of Lincoln to install a water line under Rokeby Road from South 84th Street to approximately South 98th Street. There's no cost to the county.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. So this is the road that LES reimbursed us for building last year. And as predicted, now they need city water in order to make their facility viable. And so usually we would like to put the road in and then, or put the water in and then put the road in. In this case, we put the road in and now they're gonna put the water in. And so this will require this new road to be closed for approximately 30 days. That is an extraordinary amount of time from what we usually close a road for. So I felt that this should not be on the consent agenda because I wanted you to be aware.
And we just opened it.
And we just opened it, yes.
We're gonna close it for 30 days.
Yes,
During the school season.
yes.
And everybody's going to the school in the Y. Okay.
Who's in charge of planning on these things?
I'm not the person in charge of the LES facility, so I don't have any comments here, although we have coordinated with them to the best of our abilities.
Is this going to involve ripping up the overlay or whatever?
Well,
the-
it
the
is brand-new concrete
substructure?
pavement.
It's beautiful. I mean,
So it will not involve ripping up the brand-new pavement, but it does involve doing construction adjacent to it.
Laying pipe and all that? Okay.
okay.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the utility permit 1536, allowing the city to install a water line under Rokeby Road from South 84th Street to approximately South 98th Street. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. T is a grant contract with the Lincoln Lancaster County Child Guidance Center in the amount of $50,000 for the outpatient service program. The contract is funded by the Joint Budget Committee for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Good morning, Sarah with Lincoln Lancaster Human Services. This is one of many partnerships that our office has with Lincoln Public Schools to better serve youth in our community. It braids funding between us and the school district to provide counselors on site in school and then also at the O Street location that they have.
Move approval.
Second?
Been moved and seconded that we approve the grant contract for the Lincoln Lancaster County Child Guidance Center in the amount of $50,000 for outpatient service program. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5U is a grant contract with Girl Scouts of Nebraska Spirit in the amount of $12,000 for the juvenile outreach program. The contract is funded by Juvenile Justice Prevention Funds for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
And this provides funding for Girl Scouts to go into our detention facility and then also at Bryan Community Learning School. I know I say this about a lot of our programs, but if you ever get the opportunity to go and visit the program that's run at detention, it's run on Tuesday evenings, I believe. It's one of my favorite ones to visit. It provides girls there with a leadership opportunity, but also it provides them with a mentor. The girls that are facilitating this are relatively young. A lot of them are working on their graduate degrees, and it's interesting, it's motivating to watch the girls in detention interact with the leader.
I just had a question. When I looked at the budget, there's $3,000 of this that's allocated for financial assistance. Can you describe what that's for?
When they go into the facility, they teach them different skills, and one of them is baking and cooking. And so it helps them provide those types of things, the ingredients, and then it also helps with crafts that they do inside of the facility.
Okay. So it's supplies?
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Roma?
And so actually, I was a Girl Scout leader for quite a few years, 12 as a matter of fact. So when they go into these centers, do they actually work on the different projects that the Girl Scouts have and so that they can achieve the awards and the recognition and everything?
They don't achieve the badges.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they don't do that, but they go through some of the different curricula that they use in Girl Scouts, but it's mostly focusing on leadership and that mentorship. And the reason that they don't focus on the badges is just the way that those two facilities happen to work. With detention, girls are in and out so frequently that they don't really stay in detention long enough to achieve the badge level.
Yeah, I just was wondering because when you start getting up into this age group, it does take quite a while to earn the badges and
Right.
so forth. And so, but I mean, that's always quite a, awards thing is really important, but I understand.
Any other comments, questions?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant contract with Girl Scouts of Nebraska Spirit in the amount of $12,000 for the juvenile outreach program. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5V are contracts with the following medical providers for specialized medical care of general assistance clients. Providers will be reimbursed at the Medicaid rate, and this includes University of Nebraska Board of Regents Sparkly Speech, Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology Associates PC, Gastroenterology Specialties, Inpatient Physician Associates, Lincoln Endoscopy Center, Nebraska Oral and Facial Surgery, doing business as well as oral and facial surgery, Nebraska Surgical Specialists, Paul Camphy, MD, Physical Therapy Solutions, PC, doing business as Physical Therapy and Balance Center.
Good morning, Sarah Hoyle again with Lincoln Lancaster Human Services. And then Mel Eide is here with General Assistance, as is Lisa Mollenhoff in the back. Every week we have a number of contracts that you approve for General Assistance. And I know that I've talked about it here before, but I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go through the whole process for these contracts, because we don't have a business manager in General Assistance. Instead, we have a receptionist and we have caseworkers that have been assigned generating these contracts, getting the insurance forms together, contacting these providers. When we started this about a year ago, we had 3 binders packed full of contracts dating back from 2005, from when the county assumed responsibility for general assistance from the state. Many of those contracts we didn't use. Primarily these 2, went through them, called the providers, do you still want to contract with us? Again, this process started a year ago. In the midst of this, we moved from Trabert Hall to the health department. We transitioned primary care, 125 clients, from the health department over to People's Health Center, and then we're rebuilding our website. Not our website, our database. A GASP is what it's called. And so these guys have been through a lot. They're sticking with it. And I just wanted to point out that each time now that we get a contract, because these are providers in the community where there's not a lot of incentive working with our clients. They take Medicaid payments from us, and then when our clients do get on Medicaid, we ask them in turn to reimburse us. And so a lot of time is spent by these 2 calling providers, saying, please contract with us. Today there's about a dozen that we really need that they're taking plates of cookies to try to encourage them to return their contract to us. Each one of the contracts you see on here usually comes when it's complete with a scream down the hallway that we got a contract in and we think it's going to make it, or sometimes a hug, which we're working on that. But there's a lot of, and I just wanted to recognize these 2. They've kind of been the ringleaders behind it. And then also with the county attorney's office, Dave Durbin's taken a lot of time to rewrite all of our contracts to provide for the switch from the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department over to People's Health Center. And then also with the MCOs, the managed care organizations, to make sure we had that included in our contract.
Would a round of applause for your team be appropriate?
Yeah, actually.
Almost was.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say. So thank you so very much for your work on the transition. I know that this was really time-consuming and kind of hair-pulling too. And so thank you. Yeah.
But this is not the first time that your department's come through like this. Really.
It's not.
It's a lot in 1 year.
Do I have a motion?
No, move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve 8 contracts with medical providers for specialized medical care of general assistance clients. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is number 6, consent items. Receive and place on file the annual report of county real property. Right-of-way contracts between Lancaster County and the following. Village of Denton, Southwest 91st Street and West Denton Road in the amount of $2,887. Peggy King, trustee, North 148th Street and Alville Road in a total amount of $3,429.10.
Move approval of the consent items.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent items. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 7 is public comment. Those wishing to speak to items related to county business on an agenda may do so at this time.
Anyone here wish to address the board on any subject not on the agenda? Okay.
Next are announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a staff meeting on Thursday, August 31st, 2017 at 8:30 a.m. In the Bill Luxford Studio, the County City Building. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold their next regular meeting on Tuesday, September 5th, 2017 at 9 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commish@lancaster.ne.gov. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live on Link TV. Link TV City. For the rebroadcast schedule, visit lincoln.ne.gov, keyword Link TV. Meetings are also streamed live on Link TV and can be viewed on YouTube, Link TV City.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Please call the roll.
Brinkman,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Gary? You didn't have anything to say to us?